Welcome to the Queen Conversations podcast, the official podcast of United Queendom. I'm Teddi Rene, the career champion and founder of United Queendom. I used to wait and let life happen to me and was lost with no real career goals. Like so many other women, I was just happy to have a job at all. I never negotiated my salary or even knew that I could, even though I struggled as a single mother to take care of my kids and to run my small business. But one day I had enough and I quit my job. Little did I know, this experience would give me the confidence and tools I needed to take control of my career and my life. I went from depending on food stamps to feed my family to making more than 6 figures in less than 2 years. And now I'm helping other women do it too. So join me every episode as me and my guests invite you on our journey and give you tips, tools, and guidance to take control of your life and live it the way that you decide. Welcome to the Queen Conversations podcast. My guest today is an author, a speaker, and a podcast host. I want to give her the opportunity to introduce herself and what she does and how she is building a better tomorrow.
Yes, thanks, Teddi, for having me on the podcast. My name is Minda Harts, and I'm the author of a book called The Memo, What Women of Color Need to Know to Secure a Seat at the Table. It's about the experiences of women of color in the workplace and how we move forward and how our those who consider themselves allies can be helpful. Also, I have a company by the same name, The Memo. It's a career development platform that helps women of color prepare for their seat at the table. I am a podcaster, and I also teach at NYU Wagner in their human resource department, a business course called Talent Development.
Nice. So what was it that made you decide to start the Memo LLC? And, what made you say or decide like this needs to exist in the world and you wanted to be the one to start it?
Yeah, so I started my company in 2015. And when I started the Memo LLC, I didn't necessarily think that a book would come in a podcast. I guess I wasn't dreaming big enough, but one of the things that I did want to do is make sure that I left the workplace better than I found it. And I spent 15 years of my career in the business sector as the only one or one of few and Black women. And I know how isolating that feeling can be. I know how hard we have to work to even be seen sometimes in the workplace or even considered. And so I wanted to be able to remind women that look like us that you've worked too hard to lean out now. There are tables for you, or you can create your own. But then also letting our counterparts know that, there are some systemic issues embedded in workplace culture. And if we want to make it equitable, then we have to talk about race.
Absolutely. And so I came across your book one day I want to say I was listening to something Arlen Hamilton was doing. And like twice in a row, she mentioned your name or your book. And I immediately went to Audible and downloaded it. And I promise you, it was like the best thing since I don't want to say sliced bread because sliced bread is pretty amazing, but it was perfect. And, I never really read career books for this similar reason to what you said before in your book is that the authors of those books don't look like me. So they honestly couldn't speak for me and my experience. So I was very grateful for this book that you wrote and put out into the universe because it was right on time. And then also with me being from Prince George's County, so the DC area, we are more so like a government area. So corporate experiences and things were not something that I initially thought were possible for me or was, even a path for a woman like me. So for women who are similar in that thought, like maybe they don't know that corporate America, that they have access to that, what would your advice be or what information would you give them on, how they can go from wherever they are in life to having a career in corporate America as a Black woman?
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for your kind words for finding the book. Shout out to Arlen for talking about the book, I often say that success is not a solo sport, and it requires all of us to support one another, just how the work that you do. So again, thank you. So that's the thing. I think it's the story that we tell ourselves, right? And sometimes we think that this isn't for us, or because we haven't seen someone who looks like us, then we can't possibly do it. Or we look at the job description and we're like, you know what, I do some of that, but it's not, I don't hit all 10 bullet points, but I only have 7. And I think sometimes we can be our biggest adversary to moving ahead, because we may not, we might be a first generation college student, all the things, right, that sometimes would tell us that we're not good enough to deserve these opportunities. And what I would say is, if your skills are transferable, right? And I think sometimes I talk about it in the book, it's telling your career story. So you might call it sales in your current industry, and another one might call it fundraising, but essentially you've been doing what they said. How do you tell that story? And when I moved from nonprofit to corporate America, I went back and forth at various times in my career. And it was always because I learned how to tell my career story. And I built my relationships out because it's important to have that squad. And so I think that we just have to get really clear on what we want. And I frame it in like a Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that pyramid that many people have seen. And it's like, what do you want out of your basic needs all the way up the pyramid? And we get to go after that. And especially now, there's no like traditional path to have to do something or necessarily to have all of the expertise, but we get to create all these things. Because even like an author, like I kept telling myself, no, I'm not an author, I'm not a writer. And I almost missed my opportunity to work with a major publisher because I was getting in my own way. And we just have to take that leap and run toward our fears and lean into our courage.
Amazing. And I 100% agree. Last season's theme was stories of those, telling stories of the moment we all got out of our own way, and then the amazing results from getting out of your own way and doing things. So that was perfect. So tell me a little bit more. So in the book, you had, you spoke about the use of like career coaches and career counselors for women of color to propel their career and to elevate themselves. And, the disparity between us actually using or seeking those services versus our counterparts of other races. Why, or do you think it's important to employ or seek the services of a career coach or counselor? And at what point would you recommend someone begin that search?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that, listen, every player, every star athlete has a coach. And we could be as dope as we want to be. We could have, all of the awards and come from the best, pedigree, whatever have you. But every person who wants to rise above the bar needs a coach. And so why would we think that's any different in our careers, right? And oftentimes we don't get career coaches because we don't know that they exist, or we think that they're too much money. And I'm saying, why don't we invest the same amount of energy that we would in our hairstyles or, our clothes or our shoes, so that we could actually wear those shoes in the boardroom, right? But why if you're wearing your red bottom shoes, but you never make it into the boardroom, then who's ever going to see them, right? Mm-hmm. And so it might require you to invest in someone who helps you level up. And there's only, just because you got a degree, or maybe you didn't get a degree, or you have a certificate, or you have some experience, there's always someone who could help us get to the next level. And even now, as an entrepreneur, I still use coaches in various things that I want to level up in, because I know that, again, success is not a solo sport. I can get myself to many places, but there's certain people who could add value, who could help me with my blind spots. And once I started to shift my mindset to say, if I'm a brand or I'm the team, then I need a coach, right? And what are those areas, if I'm honest with myself, that I could use, right? Is it executive presence? Because what I found is I didn't even know coaching existed till one of my colleagues I saw that they were like moving different inside the workplace. I'm like, what's going on with you? They're like, oh, I got a coach. And I'm like, well, tell me more. Right. And once I realized that this was an option, be it through your company or maybe money that you put out, but it's so worth it. Even if you just say, hey, I'm going to do a couple sessions and see what this is about, because if you want that seat, then it's going to require you to do some things differently than you did before.
Absolutely. So you did have a portion in the book as well where you spoke to like finding sponsorship, and a number of your episodes of the Secure the Seat podcast have to do with like mobilizing your allies and building your network. What would be the difference, or how do you explain the difference between like mentorship and sponsorship? And then what type of networking tools or tips or advice could you provide as well?
Yeah, it's really important to, as I talk about in the book, build your squad. And this isn't the people that you necessarily go out to brunch with on the weekends. These are the people inside the office, the alliances that you need, that will speak your name in the room when you're not there, right? Or if somebody's saying something, like, oh, she's an angry Black woman, then hopefully that person, you're part of your squad, would say, no, that's not who Minda is, actually, blah, 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 blah. But you're not going to find those people to vouch for you or give you opportunities if they don't know you, right? And so part of building your squad is making sure, as Black women in particular, we've been told oftentimes, just go to that job, girl, and do your work and keep your head down. And while we're working hard, staying late, coming in early, there's this whole other workplace dynamics going on, and people are getting advanced not because they worked the hardest or because they came in early or late, but they had the right relationships. And so I'm a firm believer, and even in my experience in the book, is my career was catapulted by years because I made the right connections with the people in my office. And so I would encourage us to, even if they don't look like you, there are some common grounds. So think about the values that you hold. And if you see that there's somebody in your organization that could help you get there, and it takes time to relationship build. So for example, if you see Bob, for example, Bob is in the C-suite, right? And it's a place you aspire to. If you see him in the elevator and he says, hi, how you doing? You don't just say, good, and keep looking at the elevator doors. This is your opportunity to say, oh, I'm doing good, and I'm working on this really awesome project that's going on. Would love to tell you more about it sometime. Start to plug yourself in different ways and take advantage and use strategy to build your relationships. And so when you see Bob again, you keep building off of that, right? And you start to build rapport. And so at some point you could ask Bob, how did you get to this place in your career? And you could start to ask for advice. And then Bob becomes a mentor. And you didn't necessarily formally have to ask Bob. And I think that trips people up, that you want someone to like mark yes or no on a piece of paper. Let's formalize it. But the way that we operate now, anyone could be your mentor, anyone you get advice from. But a sponsor, that's somebody who's going to catapult your career. They have influence what's inside the company or at another company that could catapult you. And for me, my Bob, eventually, there was an opportunity that came up and he put my name in there. And when people said, we don't think Minda's ready, she's too junior, he said, no, she could do it. Let's put her in here. Right. And that's how I got my seat at the table. But had I not had my quote unquote Bob, whoever, you insert name, but then he became a sponsor. And so all of that, none of that happens without relationship building.
Hey, it's Teddi. And I need a favor. So for 2020 as a decade, my word, the overall theme is visibility. And I need your help to do that. If you would be so kind as to leave a genuine review of the Queen Conversations podcast on Apple Podcasts, then I will send you a free Queen Conversations podcast t-shirt from Paraphernalia University. To claim your free t-shirt, simply send a screenshot of your review with your size, your name, and shipping address to freetee@teddirene.com. That's FREETEE at teddirene.com. So just to recap, Send a screenshot of your Apple Podcast review for the Queen Conversations podcast and get a free t-shirt from Paraphernalia University. Thank you so much for your help and your support. We're going to do it like a really quick game. I'm calling it the game of favorites, and I'm going to see, how you like. So, but before we do that real quick. So like, as far to the point of like mentorship, whether you know it or not, you're one of my mentors, and so is Arlen Hamilton. Like, I get so much advice and information from you guys, just like on Twitter and following you on Instagram and like subscribing to newsletters and things. So that piece of mentorship and like not being a formal type of a situation is something I absolutely agree. And I encourage everyone to find someone who has advice and insight on the things that you want to know more about, and then just gobble up all of the advice that you possibly can. Because now I get to interview you, and it's super exciting. Like,
well, thank you. Yeah, that's it, right? I have so many mentors that don't even know my name, or that I don't know my name, right? But I get really great advice, and I don't get tripped up on if they know my name or not. I'm like, you got this good advice, sis. I'm going to take it and run with it.
Absolutely. All right. So we're going to play the game of favorites real quick, and then we're going to jump back into some COVID-19 related questions. So what was, so far, as an entrepreneur, as a speaker, as an author, on your book tour and things, what was your favorite event that you ever participated in?
Oh, wow. I think for me, all of them are very special, especially putting a book out like this and meeting so many women that look like us, and how they needed it, the book. And so all of those experiences like mean so much to me, and emails and things of the sort. But I would say kind of like a weird moment was excitingly weird and happy was speaking, I think, at Nike, and a brand that, I've wore for many years, and just they seem to care about Black athletes and women athletes, and so for me it was just really cool to be in a space that I never thought that I would be talking to Nike athletes about the memo. And so I just think if I would have ran to my fears of not putting the book out, then I never would have maybe had a chance to connect with you, right, and others. And so I think just the whole nine. There's like not particularly one thing, but just the people that I've been able to meet at these different places, and that's part of that access, right? We need access as women of color to be in these rooms.
Nice. So for someone who has not yet read your book, what's your favorite chapter or section of the book? Like, where if they only could look at one, which would you suggest that they look at?
That's a tough one. But for me, probably Everyone Can't Be a Golden Girl. That was chapter 4. And that was where I was like extremely vulnerable about a situation I was dealing with in the workplace. And I feel like so many of us have had situations like that. So I think that is one of those like, okay, she's getting real, and I'm going to finish this rest of this book.
Absolutely. That was one of my favorites. So I was like, ooh, okay. All right. What is your favorite episode of your podcast?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. So many good ones. But I think my favorite is Toxic Work Environments with Sarah Morgan, because that one, I think we've all in some way, shape, or form been in a toxic environment. And when you start to like replay things, you're like, oh my God, how did I last? How did I survive in this,
Mm-hmm. All right. And then the last question, what is on your podcast playlist? So what do you listen to?
Right. And I don't know if this is a COVID-19 thing, although I was listening to this before, but I've been listening to a lot of Sarah Jakes Roberts.
Oh my God. Me too. Look, I just caught up like yesterday and today. I've been replaying like the last 6 episodes of The Potter's House because I was like crazy addicted to her. I love her.
Yes. So I definitely love listening to that. And I've been listening to a lot of like spiritual podcasts just because I feel like because I was on the road for almost 8 months that I just needed like some refreshing time, and to get some of that inspiration. So that's kind of where I've just been catching up.
Yes, yes. So back to just a couple more questions, right? So how has COVID-19 pretty much in influenced your or affected your upcoming events and just like your professional plans for the next few months?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so the answer is it's definitely shook it up in ways that I couldn't even believe. Like I was supposed to be on the road till the end of the year, and with 3 to 4 events a week, and now I'm going on my the 4th week inside the house, and everything just came to a screeching halt. Right, 2 streams of income were immediately like, and so public speaking, and then book stuff. And for me, it was one of those moments where I'm like, okay, I've been an entrepreneur for a while. I had not dealt with COVID-19 per se, but there are other types of things that have happened, and we learned to pivot. And so for me, it's like, how can I secure my seat from the house? And so I started doing IG Instagram lives on Thursdays at 4 p.m. about the book. So I do live readings and I answer people's questions, so that's one way to keep marketing the book. And then also starting to write my next book, utilizing this time period, not being idle. And then lastly, working on things that how do I still make my vision board happen? Mm-hmm. Yes, COVID-19 was not on my vision board, but my goals are still my goals. And so for me, I'm just using this time to say, I'm working in the office, I'm doing the administrative tasks. So for me, it's the mindset. Like I'm still keeping an abundant mindset, even though I know I just have to pivot, but that's what life is, a series of pivots.
Absolutely. So I have this question that just popped up in my head. So you're on Twitter. I see you on Twitter often. Are you familiar with LLC Twitter?
I know I've seen it, but I haven't had a chance to go down the rabbit hole.
Okay. So technically, like as an entrepreneur, you are a part of the LLC Twitter community, but you also work. So you're also a part of 9 to 5 Twitter. So my question is, which side are you standing on in regards to like what people should be doing with this time of being home in isolation? LLC Twitter will tell you that you should be starting a business and learning new skills, and you should be coming out of this making 6 figures on the side. But just like, what's your insight or your take on that?
That's funny. I definitely have to check out LLC Twitter. I'm in the middle because I do feel like this is the next wave of whatever's going to happen, right? And so this is our opportunity. Everybody had to reset in some way, shape, or form. So, I ran track in my youth, and everyone's at the starting blocks, and I see that gun has gone off. How do we want to run this race? And I think for people of color, women of color, for Black women, anybody who feels underrepresented, this is our opportunity to get in there and see a problem and solve it, right? And I feel like we got to be LLC Twitter right now if we want to have some of this next generation wealth. But I'm also, not trying to force people to feel what you feel. Like if you got to do the 9 to 5, or you just need to, have a good cry, do what you got to do, but know that life still has to happen. And so positioning yourself in a way that you feel comfortable. And so for me, because I am I am a public speaker and an entrepreneur, like I have to hustle. And so that's part of that LLC mindset. But even when I was an entrepreneur, I still was that hustling kind of mindset. And so it's not for everyone. I'll just put it out there. I am an Aries. That's who we are. So we keep going. We work, that's just our mindset. So, you have options. That's what I want to tell people.
Absolutely. All right. So let's talk about some of the goals you have this year, or some of the plans that you had. I saw on Twitter the other day that tickets are now on sale for your writer's retreat. So I just wanted to get some more information on what the writer's retreat is and who all should be buying these tickets, and then kind of like what should they expect to walk away with?
Yes, absolutely. I'm glad you asked that question, because so one of the things I was planning on my 2020 plans was a writing retreat, because I have so many people reach out to me and ask for writing advice. How did this happen, et cetera, et cetera. And I felt like, well, yeah, it is this kind of behind the scenes that people don't often know about. And I didn't going through the process. And so the writer's retreat is called Secure Your Seat Writer's Retreat 2020. It's May 15th and 16th, completely a virtual experience. And I have agents from major publishers, editors, I have branding experts, I have authors who self-published, authors who went, major publishers, award-winning New York Times bestsellers. We have it all. Like, this is where I want you to come, and not to mention there'll be time for you to write, and writing prompts and get feedback on your writing, because some people don't know what route they should take. And I just want to be able to make the information accessible, because I think that tends to stop many of us when we don't have the resources or don't have the tools. And so it's a 2-day experience, and I expect that people will have some hardcore outlines of their book proposals when they leave the virtual experience.
Nice. And then what are those days again? You said May
15th and 16th. And we even have a resident DJ at the end of the day. Like, it's not just going to be your average Zoom calls. It's going to be something, an experience. And I want people to, if they have this birth of wanting to put a book out, that you'll at least have the resources and the tools to do it.
Nice. And then where can people go to get tickets for that?
Yeah, so you can go to mindaharts.com, and if you sign up for my virtual book club, then you'll have access to the link. But you can also Google Secure the Seat Writers Retreat 2020. It's on Eventbrite.
Nice. All right. So then also you have the Women of Resilience Award. Could you tell me some, like, what exactly that is, and like how that kind of works with the COVID-19 situation?
Yes, I've had to just straight up pivot almost everything. and I think that's the thing. Like, we could sit and we could be like, oh, darn, this didn't happen, right? Or we can make it happen. And so that's what I've chose to do. And so at my company, the Memo LLC, we have an annual event that we call the Women of Resilience Awards. We honor 3 women of color in business. And so typically, obviously, we have it in person in New York City. And because of COVID-19, at first we were just going to say, you know what, we won't have it. We'll just do it next year. But I feel like in this time period, resilience it means even more to me now. And so we have 3 women that we're honoring. One that some people may know, Tiffany Defoe. She is the author of a book called Drop the Ball and The Crew. And so we are honoring. Yeah. And so it's going to be great. We've always had a good time. So I'm looking forward to, again, providing a good night of resilience. And that's May 7th. And you can go to myweeklymemo.com and buy tickets.
Nice. That's my mom's birthday, actually. May 7th.
Oh, okay. Shout out to Mom.
Amazing. All right. So real quick, lightning round. What are 3 things that you are happy about today?
You know, it's interesting. I got some toilet paper, and I hadn't been selling that for quite some time. It's a brand I've never heard of, but I've never been so happy to get it. So it's the little things. Tissue paper. My birthday is actually tomorrow, and so
yes, happy birthday!
Thank you so much. So just gratitude. I'm happy right now that I get to celebrate my birthday. Even though it's in the house, you know, it's still a celebration. And then lastly, I just started watching the show called Little Fires Everywhere. So,
oh my God. Isn't it such
I'm really excited about that.
Oh my, like I literally right before this just finished rewatching the most recent episode. And then I had to Google because I want to know what happens in episode 6 because I'm sold. Like I'm all the way in, even with Kerry Washington's faces. I love it.
Yes. All the faces.
I love it. Well, yeah. So happy early birthday to you. And, thank you for joining me today. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for creating the Memo LLC and for writing the book and creating and entering and joining the conversation and just propelling that for all of us women of color, helping everyone that you help and serving the community in the way that you do. Before we depart, did you have any final words, any last tokens of wisdom or anything you want to say to the audience or to yourself, if you like?
Yes. So first of all, again, thank you for having me. And the last thing I want to I know that this is like a wild time. Even prior to COVID, I've been working from home since 2014. So I become accustomed to it, but I know it's a switch up for a lot of people. And still, your goals are still your goals. Your dreams are still your dreams. We just have to have fresh eyes and redefine what success looks like. And so, don't put your dreams on the back burner because you have a different location that you're working out of. Audre Lorde said, beware of feeling like you're not good enough to deserve it. And everything that you set out to do, you deserve. And so make sure you keep self-advocating for yourself. Make sure you're in these virtual rooms when it makes sense. Networking doesn't stop. We just have to do it a little bit different.
I love it. I'm literally about to put that quote on a t-shirt. It's amazing. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you again, Minda, for joining me today and enjoy your birthday.
Thank you.